Speaker Scott Holder. He was born and raised in Sonoma County. He describes it as a place where God goes on vacation. He met his wife at church at age 4 and got married a short 21 years later, and as he says, she had a mature son. Scott has a branch office for Edward Jones, a career that spans over 20 years. Scott has many passions, too many according to his bride. As an avid pilot, Scott is also a member of the Angel Flight West Group, an organization that flies those with medical need for treatments all over the state of California. Scott began his climbing on the local California mountains and has been up to Mount Shasta too many times to count. He began his pursuit of the 7 summits in 2011 with Aconcagua, close enough for government work, in South America. Everest would have been his 6th continent. In addition to his wife Tricia, Scott has 2 daughters. Miranda is a D1 gymnast at UC Davis, and Brittany is a senior at Santa Rosa High. Scott is a member of the Santa Rosa Sunrise Rotary Club and a multiple Paul Harris Fellow. Please, a warm sunrise welcome for Scott Holder.
So I can either go by the real time or I go by that one. You guys all day or what's your preference? Waiting for a clicker here. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, sir. Well, thanks very much for the opportunity to talk to your club. I was talking with my 17-year-old daughter last night as I was finishing a couple of slides. And 17-year-old daughters can do is think, Dad, why do they care what you have to say? Fair question for a 17-year-old. I don't do public speaking all that often. I said, well, a couple of reasons. You know, I talk about Everest. It's kind of mystique. A lot of people don't know much about Everest or climbing in general. And I said, I don't think so. Okay, so I tried the next thing. Well, I was there at an epic time in history. You know, one of the biggest earthquakes to hit the continent ever. So I don't think that's it. So I think I finally came up with the right answer why Rotary clubs have been asking me to come speak. I'm not asking you for money or for a vote. You kind of got that one.
What are you doing next week?
Next week I'm speaking to the club on the other side of town. But I'm going to talk about Mount Everest. It's the climb that never was. I'm going to touch on the earthquake, but as all of you probably know by now, Nepal was hit by a very large earthquake in April, 6.8, 6.9 on the Richter scale. Close to 10,000 people died. So that interrupted the climb. We're going to talk about that briefly, but I did want to take you on a journey to Mount Everest, because quite honestly, besides a few movies that have been out there, none of them are very good. Most of us don't really know what Mount Everest is all about, whether it be a big mountain somewhere in the Himalaya. But just for fun, I put a couple of props on the tables too, because a lot of people ask me, you know, what do you wear on Mount Everest? Well, these are your boots on Mount Everest. I've actually had these boots at minus 65 degrees down in Antarctica. On the bottom, this is not for aerating your lawn, although it does work pretty well. But when you're climbing mountains like Mount Everest, you're on steep, icy slopes, 60, 70 degrees. So you actually need these, are called crampons, to gain purchase of the ice. These boots are a double boot. There's actually an inside boot inside of there, wrapped in Kevlar. There's also a helmet, a brain bucket as we call it. There's always falling rock. The deaths on Everest this year were not by avalanche. It was by falling debris. Not one person died on Everest this year because of the avalanche. It was all debris. This little guy goes a long way. You see words on here. Every time I go on a trip, my kids write notes to Dad. So every morning when I get out of my tent and put this thing on, it just reminds me I've got something more important than a mountain to come home to. In the back's also an ice axe. I'm keeping it away from the present in case I go over time. But that's something too that actually never leaves your hand. You know, I'll go a month and a half with that thing by my side every minute of the way on a climb like Mount Everest. So I thought I'd talk about a couple of fun facts. Mount Everest. Until last year, and I don't mean this last climbing season, but last year's avalanche, Everest has had 2 years in a row where no one has summited. It had been since 1974 since somebody had not summited Everest. The Nepalese government has had 2 years in a row of closing the mountain down because of natural disasters. The oldest person was 81 years old. I actually met him on Everest this year. He was 86, going to break his own record. 86 years old. Amazing. Youngest was 13. The reason for the Barry Bonds asterisk there, some of you got that. After Joe Romero from Big Bear Lake, California, California summit at age 13 after his parents, well, supposedly dragged him up the mountain. Nepal passed the law, you have to be 18 now to climb Mount Everest. Chinese government, you can go as early as 10 on the other side. Mount Everest grows 4 millimeters per year just because of the global shift in the tectonic plates. This year it's estimated it grew up to 14 inches because of the plate shift. Lukla to base camp. Let me move this out of your guys' way. So Lukla is where you actually fly into. It's the last airport in the Himalaya, the highest at 10,000 feet. You'll see a couple pictures of it later on. It's a 39-mile trek to Everest base camp. 9 minutes. You want to guess what that number is?
Helicopter ride.
Well, you're close.
If you're at the top and you fall off 9 minutes till you hit the bottom.
A little quicker than that, but I like that. That's a good one.
Well, you gotta bounce along the way.
How long
Yeah.
can survive the summit without oxygen?
Very close. 9 minutes is how long any of us leaving from sea level 120 feet Sebastopol today, if we put you on the summit of Mount Everest, you'd be dead within 9 minutes. It takes your body weeks. It takes 2 months to climb Everest. You typically summit in about the 6th or 7th week. That's because you have to get your body time to acclimate, to build more red blood cells, to carry more oxygen. So 9 minutes is about the time most of us, without being acclimated, would survive on Everest. So why do I do it? I started, he mentioned 2011, I started climbing something called the Seven Summits. Dick Bass in 1985, Dick Bass, the oil tycoonist who recently passed away a few months ago, was the first to conceive of the idea of climbing the highest peak on each continent. And it's known as the Seven Summits. To date, there's been about 375 Americans to achieve that. So it's a pretty small audience. The Seven Summits are Australia, Kosciuszko, which is a mere 7,300 feet. You can actually drive a car within 1,000 feet of it. Most people end with this one with a picnic lunch with their family because it's by far the easiest. You have Kilimanjaro in Africa, 19,340. You have Mount Elbrus, which is in the Caucasus range of Russia, 18,005. Australia has actually 2 summits. I'll talk about that briefly in a second. But Carson's Pyramid is the second summit that's considered. It's in Indonesia. It's 16,000 feet. Geologists are now saying that Indonesia and Australia are one continent. So for many of you with kids in high school geology, and they can all be talking about this, or geography rather, don't be too confused, because that's kind of the new thing now, is it's one continent, because the underwater shelf is less than a mile deep. Go figure. But it created a summit for those of us that have this goal. You got South America, Aconcagua, which is 22,000. Incidentally, it's the highest peak outside the Himalaya. You have to go to all the Himalaya to get something higher. Antarctica, probably the most fun I've had on a mountain ever was in Antarctica. Mount Vincent at 16,000 feet. Of course, North America, Denali. Anybody been to Alaska and seen Denali? Yeah, it's about 30% of the time you go to Alaska, you can actually see the mountain. You actually have a t-shirt saying the 30% club. And then, of course, you have in Asia, Mount Everest, which is 29,035 feet as of last year. Hasn't been measured yet this year. But the real heroes of Everest, we all hear these stories of the Sherpa. These are the folks that are on the mountain with us. Anyone know what Sherpa means? What was that?
I was saying the first Sherpa to go up there was Tenzing one.
Tenzing Norgay was the first Sherpa to the summit, correct. But then didn't know it. His son was actually on Everest this year, Jan Ling. Anyone know what Sherpa, the term, means? It's actually tribe of people in Nepal. A lot of times we think that they're the people that carry our bags. They're actually a tribe of about 6,000 folks in Nepal. They're born between 16,000 and 18,000 feet. So when they say climbing is in their blood, they're really not kidding. They have 2 times the number of red blood cells somebody living at sea level has at all times. These guys are amazing, and women are amazing. Niwa, Dawa, Mima, Lakpa, Purba, Sangpimba. You may know what that means? I'll give you a hint, there's 7 of them.
The dwarves.
Cute.
Continents.
I said my Sherpa was visit you. So Sherpas are named by the day of the week they're born. So this is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They all go by the middle name, of course. But when you get mad at your Sherpa and you yell Tuesday, 38 or 40 people turn around and look at you. So you have to be a little careful there. But they're named after the day of the week they're born. So this is our team. This is me on the left, my friend slash guide Jacob in the blue. The couple on the right from Haines, Alaska, they were coming with us just to base camp as a trek. About 25,000 people every year trek to base camp, do this 39-mile hike through the rhododendron forest. This is Kathmandu. This is before the earthquake, by the way. The building in the center, got a pointer here. The building in the center actually is inhabited. Yes, I realize there's no walls on the building and it's 4 stories, 5 stories, but there's actually people living in there. Nepal is anyone been to Nepal? Kathmandu? Think of it? Yeah, it's very, very depressed city, very polluted. Lots of traffic. This was a normal day. This line went for a good half a mile. It would take you a good 10 minutes to cross the street, running very quickly. This is a pre-earthquake. This is the power lines in Nepal. Kathmandu, yeah, you got it, very third world. It's the kind of city where you're walking around in a light rainstorm, and you actually smell electricity in the air, and you find yourself stepping over puddles because you're afraid to step in the puddle because of electrical shock. It's just crazy. This is the construction. This was a 3-story building. This was before the earthquake, by the way. I just happened to look at underneath the underflowing in the first story. I'm not sure this is past code in California. This has a lot to do with the destruction that they saw. This is not a bad picture of the sunspot. This is smog. This is a typical street in Kathmandu. This is a 2-way street, by the way, in Kathmandu. Just unbelievably crowded. And these guys are everywhere. The first day, they're really, really cute. You want to feed them and pet them. The third day, they're taking your sandwich right out of your backpack. But they are everywhere in Nepal. And so is Buddha. Everywhere you look, a very religious country, but the Buddha eyes are always upon you. So this is Kathmandu International Airport. Complete with a dirt floor and monkeys running around and the security that took about 30 seconds to get through. That part was kind of nice, actually. You didn't need to take off your shoes or anything. You could walk through with a gun, I'm pretty sure. But this is where we started our journey to fly here. This is Lukla. This airport, this runway, any pilots in the room? So this runway is 1,900 feet, 10,000 feet elevation. I fly a pretty sporty, pretty fast airplane. I could not land my airplane. And yet they're bringing in these twin otters, these Pilatuses, 1,900 feet. At the end of it's a one-way runway. Basically, where I'm standing on a rock. So if this airplane didn't stop in time, the rock would stop it. When you take off, it's downhill 90%. So a 7,000-foot drop-off at the other end of that runway. Yeah, not for the faint of heart. Of course, I was loving it, but it's a very difficult airport. This airport, by the way, you'll see a few pictures, really became ground zero for all the rescue efforts. So this is a town called Lukla. And I say the first time, this is where I ended up being stranded after the earthquake. This is a typical village in the Himalaya. No streets, the nearest car is 100 miles away. You got cobblestone, you got vendors selling their wares. This is a very typical Nepalese village. It's about 200 yards long, that's it, and you're back in the forest. And these are strewn out along the way to base camp. This is leaving town. Every time you leave town, at the very end of town, you can see the 2 giant prayer wheels. Spin prayer wheels, it spins prayers up into the heavens for a blessed journey. The rocks here along the side are all engraved with prayers. Hundreds of years old. You'll see pictures later where these are stacked 10, 20, 30 feet high from locals, just hammering out their prayers and sending them up to the gods. I just thought this was interesting. Everest restaurant and lunch place, no big deal, but when you have to say that you have hygienic food service, it kind of makes me wonder. It's kind of like saying I'm an honest person. Well, if you are, you don't have to tell me you're an honest person. But they have to tell me that they have hygienic food service. That kind of bothered me. We didn't eat there. So here's another village. This is Pakting, our first village along the way. Again, cobblestone sidewalks, very little, well, there's no traffic whatsoever other than yaks and horses and mules coming through. And this is the typical tea house. When you're traveling in the Khumbu, which is the area I'm in, they're owned by families. There's a restaurant down below, serving typical Nepalese fare. And upstairs, they have constructed rooms. Most of them are no bigger than 10 by 10. They're built out of 3/4 inch plywood. with the hinge door and lock on the outside. Never quite understood that one. One of the trekkers, David, and his wife, she went up to take a nap one day. He came downstairs to have some tea and closed the door and locked it just to make sure nothing happened. Forgot she couldn't get out. There's no windows. There's no cell phone coverage. She could just text them and say, come get me. An hour and a half later, she comes walking down and goes, oh, how was your nap? And she goes, I've been banging on the door for an hour until somebody finally opened up the door and let me out. I didn't go up with them. As you're going across, I mean, keep in mind, we're up in the mountains, we're crossing these big chasms. These suspension bridges, some of them are a couple hundred years old, are everywhere. And you're crossing these very large chasms. My wife's afraid of heights, and I think this would be the deal killer for her, because as you're crossing these things, these guys are coming at you. Guess who wins? So these aren't yaks necessarily, these are a family of yaks that live below 12,000 feet. There's actually yaks for above 12 and yaks below 12. And the yaks that live below 12,000 can't go above 12 or else they'll die. And the yaks above 12 can't come down or else they will die. It's a very interesting gene that they have. So this is a town called Natchez Bazaar. And this isn't my blood, you can't find me for wearing an Edward Jones hat. But this is Natchez Bazaar. This is the Sherpa capital. This is where in the 1800s, 1900s, the Chinese and the Nepalese all met together in the Himalayas to trade their silks and their spices. This is the Sherpa capital. It's the largest city in the Khulu district. You can see it's built like an amphitheater. So you can imagine what a 6.8 earthquake did to this village. Pretty much all of the homes on the top right of the screen are gone. When I left Everest in a helicopter, we flew over this building, and almost all of those homes have slid all the way down to the bottom. And by the way, any questions, feel free to jump in as I go along. So this is new construction. This is obviously pre-earthquake. Pretty good construction. It's a good 4x4, some nice windows. What you can't really see in the picture is they put no mortar on those rocks. So when they stack these rocks, they do a really nice job leveling them, but there's no mortar between them. Imagine building a brick building in California without mortar. You know, there are some of these buildings, you take a break, you sit against the wall, and you actually move the wall. Because there's nothing holding them other than the sheer weight of it. Gives you a little insight into why the devastation is so great. So these are some of the more of the prayer rocks I was talking about. And then the prayer wheels. This was remarkable. These prayer wheels were about 4 feet high. I'm estimating, made out of copper and heavy metal, I'm estimating probably 200 pounds each. Really hard to turn. The interesting thing was these were in the middle of nowhere, at least 150 miles from the closest road. So these were carried and or built on site up there. And you can see there's a long row. There's at least 30 or 40 in this row. So we get to another town called Boucher, and there's happy hour, and they're showing movies. Most of the people going through this village are going to climb Mount Everest. So what movie would they be showing? Naturally, they're showing Death on Everest. But it's 15% off for a Guinness. It was bizarre, but everywhere we went, these little villages, they had movie nights, and it was always Death on Everest or Tragedy in the Mountains. So here we're on our way to Boucher. Boucher is the highest monastery in the world, 15,000 feet. It's over 500 years old. It actually burned down in 1990. The Chinese government came to rebuild it to exactly the same replication it was. This is Tuesday, by the way. Not to be confused with Monday. It was on the bridge. So this is Boucher. Again, this is several hundred years old, rebuilt by the Chinese in the early 90s. The monk on the stairs, we had a brief interaction with him. I think he said he's 117 years old. It was very difficult to understand exactly how he was doing it. He's writing in the dirt. And our Sherpa said he's between 100 and 120 years old. They didn't keep good records back then, the Sherpa said. But very congenial man. We actually got to go inside, but you couldn't take cameras past this point. But just a very holy place in a beautiful environment. Lama Geshe. You can't climb any mountain in Himalaya until you're blessed by a lama. So Lama Geshe was actually handpicked by the Dalai Lama to he's kind of the governor, the religious governor of this area of Khulu. So you go and sit down with him. He smokes copious amounts of marijuana. And as he's blessing you, we were there for 4.5 hours. Lots of rice being thrown, lots of rice wine being drank, lots of partaking by the Lama. But this was a very long ceremony, but you're blessing the tata, the scarf that he blessed you with. And the scarf is not to leave your neck until you return from the mountain. Again, a very religious country. So finally we see Everest. Everest is the peak in the very back, right here. This is Lhotse. You can see this plume of clouds coming up here. Everest at 29,000 feet is in the jet stream. So the winds on the top of Everest on this day most likely were 100 to 150 miles per hour. This jet stream, this is not in proportion. This is hard to get in proportion. That's at least 30 miles. So just a huge plume of smoke. It's obvious to say no one's going to summit that day. This is Dave Moshe. This is just another version of the tea house. A little nicer one. We actually had windows in this one, so I guess that one could have crawled out of this one. We finally get to snow. We had been up until now, up until 17,000 feet, it had little to no snow. Everest this year had the most snow that it had in 25 years. So that actually contributed to some of the problem when the earthquake hit. But this is approaching base camp. Base camp is right around this corner here, and Everest is right up here. This is Everest Base Camp, a small city. You can get pretty much anything you want in base camp. One of my partner's laptop battery died. Within 3 days, he had a new one brought up by Sherpas. In 2 days, the Sherpas moved that 39 miles. It took us 9 days. So I say that's in their blood. I'm not kidding. We had mail service 3 times a week at base camp. So I could actually write a letter home and get a letter back at base camp. It's almost too convenient. The base camp spans about a mile from this point all the way up to here. This will be more relative later, but this is a Kungu icefall right here. And behind me, where I'm taking a picture, is a mountain called Kumori. I'll have a better picture of it in a moment. And this is where the earthquake, our camp is right, that's our tent right there. And this whole part of the base camp was completely wiped out during the earthquake. This camp survived unharmed. This is where all the rescue operations were set up. We live in style. I mean, this is a very large double tent. You can see we have tables and chairs, we've got rugs. It's not a bad place to be hanging out. All this is brought up on yaks, not in the back of Sherpas. But we have yak service pretty much every other day, fresh food. As you can see, we eat well. Again, this is the ice fall. Right here that collapsed, and then this is the shoulder. That's Mount Everest right here. Did they get to write out the trip? Still working on that one. You see games in the room? Yeah. Every single day, every day, regardless of the time, you get avalanches. And the first 3 days, every time I heard one, I was jumping around. By the 7th day, I didn't bug. You just get used to it. You're on a moving, living glacier the entire time. You're sleeping at night, you hear grunts and groans. Occasionally, your sleeping bag will actually move a little bit as the earth is settling. A lot of people thought the earthquake was just another crevasse moving around until it lasted as long as it did. So, as I mentioned, a very religious culture. We had a puja ceremony to bless our climb on the mountain. And this was led by a local lama, which is here. And this is another 5-hour ceremony. Lots of rice being thrown, lots of rice wine being drank. It's not near as good as a Rokioli Little Hill right there. Yes, I noticed that. But this is a very long ceremony, and it's mandatory to have before anybody steps foot on the mountain. 3 years ago, there were some climbers, you might have read about Uli Steck, who got in a fight with the Sherpas. They went up the mountain without puja, and 30 Sherpas went up and dragged him down. That's how serious they take this mountain.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
What's the temperature variation daytime, nighttime?
Well, look what I'm wearing right there. That's a great leading question.
Yeah.
It's bizarre to me, 18,500 feet was where I'm at right there in shirt sleeves. Because you're in this glacier bowl and the radiant heat off the snow is unbelievable. So I would be like this at 12 noon, and by 6 p.m. I'd be in my full down suit, zipped up with a hood on and my big old gloves. So we go from, this is probably 40 degrees, although it feels like 80 because of the sun, to minus 10. Everest is actually a pretty warm mountain. I mean, Denali is a lot colder than Everest. In fact, when you go to Denali and you summit, you can actually buy a shirt that says Denali, great training for Everest, great training for Denali. Because Denali is so much colder. But you get these wild swings. So this is the climb to the summit of Everest. This is base camp here. That's the ice fall I showed you up to Camp 1. Camp 2 is here. Camp 3, Camp 4, Camp 5. That takes all told, about 2 months to acclimate to make this climb. We got as high as right here, Camp 2, which is about 23,000 feet, before we came back down to rest because there was too much snow above here. So nobody this year got above Camp 2. That was the highest thing we got because of the snow levels. And then, of course, the earthquake kind of cut that short. But here's what it looks like climbing through the ice wall. And I apologize for the picture. This was taken about 4 in the morning, so I had to kind of pull my camera a little bit. You're walking over ladders over 40, 50, 60-foot crevasses, just these big chasms. The Sherpas say if you fall in there, you fall to America. And it's like climbing this, you know, if you think of like looking you're freezing, you see your ice bucket in there and all this jumbled ice. Well, now imagine yourself the size of an ant crawling up that ice. That's kind of how you feel. And all day long, these things are shifting. So what you climbed yesterday is going to be different tomorrow because the ice has moved. And that's actually what killed all the Sherpas 2 years ago, is when this collapsed. So April 25th, 6.8, 6.9 magnitude earthquake, it's hard to say exactly, hit 11:45 a.m. The day before the earthquake, we were at Camp 2. My partner Jake and I, we both had a slight cough, which is not good at altitude, but not a big deal. We said, hey, let's get out of base camp. This is on Thursday night. So we go back down to base camp Thursday night. Friday morning, I'm having tea with one of my Sherpa friends in the tent next to mine. And he says, hey, our cook is sick. He's going to fly down the loop like a helicopter. Rest a couple of days. Do you guys want to go? I thought about it. I said, yeah, you know, we can't go any higher anyway. It was a scheduled 3-day rest anyway. So I said, yeah, I'll go. My friend Jacob, his fiance was in base camp. She's a doctor there. And I think he saw the opportunity to be alone with his girlfriend. And I left, so he goes, no, I'm going to stay here. So he stayed at base camp. I flew to Wicklow with this cook on Friday night. 12 hours later, the earthquake hit. So Jacob was fine. His fiance was fine. Our tents were level. Our dome tent had a 4-foot hole in it from the chunk of ice, which was straight through it. Complete utter devastation. This picture is taken from the top of Tamori, which is a mountain. This is at 22,000 feet. This is base camp. It's a little small when you get high. Where I'm standing right now is the exact ice fall that collapsed. We were actually skating on it 3 days before the earthquake. This is what fell and hit base camp. When I mentioned nobody was killed by avalanche debris, not to be morose but morbid, but most people died at base camp from puncture wounds. If you think of taking a big chunk of ice and dropping it on the floor from 20 feet, what happens? It just shatters, right? You get what I call ice shrapnel. That's what killed people in Everest this year. No one died because of suffocation, which is common in avalanches. It was all shrapnel. But this is I'm saying the exact same spot that collapsed. I mentioned Luke became a hub. Well, this just got very, very busy for Luke. You can see we got stretchers here. If you could speak English, you were put to work. And my friend and I were put to work loading helicopters with the victims from base camp and from all the other villages. It was a pretty rough scene. It was pretty bad. I was in a tea house when the earthquake struck at 11,000 feet. And I was with this gentleman named Greg that I met in Germany. And it had been raining really hard for 24 hours. And it started to rumble. And we're on a cantilever building 3 stories up, 1 foot below ground level with 2 stories above us. And he looks at me and goes, that was a mudslide. We're on the side of the hill. It feels like an earthquake to me, but I'm from California. What do I know about earthquakes? And he kept going. And so pretty soon everyone just screamed and ran out of the building. And he and I were calmly talking like idiots, debating whether it's an earthquake or mudslide. So finally we decided to leave. We go outside. I remember I left my passport and my satellite phone on the table. And the earthquake's still going. I ran back inside like an idiot and grabbed my passport and my satellite phone because I didn't want to be in the call without those 2 key things. The reason that's funny is the next day, the owner called us over, and for some reason in this tea house with no windows, they had a surveillance camera. Not really sure why, but we got to watch ourselves on video, and here you see these 2 idiots standing there while things are breaking and glasses falling over. We're talking like no big deal. Then we leave, and then you see this other idiot, me, run back in and grab a cell phone during an earthquake. We watched that video, 42 seconds you were showing. I think Loma Prieta was 8 or 12 seconds, and that was pretty big for those of us that felt it. 42 seconds was the length of this earthquake. I had no idea. I called my wife, it was 2 in the morning or something, woke her up, said, honey, there's been an earthquake. I don't know anything about it, but I'm okay, don't worry about it. Good night, have a good night. I hung up. showing me back 10 minutes later, do you realize how big this is? No, I'm in a village with nothing. I mean, I have a satellite phone, that's it. So they're saying there's 1,000 people dead. And as you know by now, there's over 10,000 people that actually died in that earthquake. So we had no idea what the earthquake was. Daily funeral procession through town. As I said, a very, very religious country. The monks were playing music 24 hours a day, burning juniper. Remember the before picture of Luke, how crowded it was and busy and all the people selling their wares? This is 2 days after the earthquake. Just nobody. All the facades had crumbled down. We cleaned the streets, but you can still see some of the brick laying around. This woman had just lost her son, who was a Sherpa up on Everest. Flying back into Kathmandu, there was, I kind of expected Armageddon. From the air, it looked pretty normal. And then you get to the ground, and there's just people huddled everywhere. There's buildings collapsed. These children's parents' store had collapsed, so they went in front to sell food to anybody who would buy something, just to make some money. This woman was doing the same thing. You can see these little villages. This is an apartment building. Water trucks. There was no water in Kathmandu, so all the villages had a 5-gallon bucket in front. They all got one 5-gallon bucket a day, filled by these very sanitary-looking trucks. But that was their sole source of water. This was a pizza restaurant up above that we actually ate at before I went to Everest. Again, you can just see the devastation of trying to prop up buildings and things. The pollution was just even worse. Tent cities everywhere. I had bought my wife and daughter scarves in this store 3 weeks before I left for base camp. It's gone. Again, the children selling wares. I wish I had the guts to take the picture here I wanted to take. This woman was sitting in front of a pile of rubble, and in the rubble was a Barbie doll that was all twisted and mangled. And the local told me that they had not found her daughter. And I was thinking, man, what a great picture, but I just didn't have the courage to take the picture. But she was just devastated, just sitting there with this look on her face. And the woman told me she'd been there for 2 days, just sitting there. This is her house. So it's awful. You know what, the kids, they didn't know any better. I mean, kids are kids no matter where they are in the world, but the kids are still having fun climbing on the rubble. This is the last slide I'll leave you with. This was very disturbing. This was a week after the earthquake. Kathmandu has one runway. It's 8,000 feet long. These pallets ran the entire length of the runway. They're all flown in by UN, a lot of India support. The U.S. has just gotten there with big C5s full of materials. There's backhoes, bulldozers, water, food generators here. They're there for a week. And I asked one of the guards, I said, what are these things doing here? He goes, well, the government hasn't released them yet. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, they want to see what they want first. No. You can say what you want about our government, but their government is going through the things that their people needed before they gave the people who need them. And then this was scribbled on the wall in my hotel. I just thought it was a very fitting end. So thank you for listening. The Nepalese government being punished for the way they treated their people. But I haven't seen anything really. Yeah, it does. Karma.
You mentioned Antarctica being one of your favorites. What was special about it?
Wow, that's the whole program. Just the pristineness of it. I mean, no pollution, no dust, no pollen, no nothing. For me and you, it looks like we can walk there in an hour. It's 15 miles away. It's so clear. Sure. I don't do selfies. Yes, I do. For me.
Thank you and for we have the raffle, we would do it. But apparently we're really quick with that. Got another
Grab your hat.
That's half of the trophy. Is that what we give away? prize, but we'll keep it in advance. Jim Gilliam.
Two guys are discussing popular family trends on sex, marriage, and family values. Bill said, "I didn't sleep with my wife before we got married." Did you? Larry replied, "I'm not sure. What was her maiden name?"
Chuck would have liked that.